All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the town hall in reference to the broadened use of the existing 1 cent sales tax. For everybody that couldn't make it and is watching from home, um, if you're on if you're on Facebook, I'm going to try my best to keep up with the comments here, just in case I get any questions that come through. I'm going to try to answer anything and everything that I can. Um, just want to be very open as early voting for this. This will be the only measure that Pottsville has on the ballot for the March 3rd election, but early voting starts tomorrow. So starting out, I will post these slides online later, but we have sent out these flyers, which is our first slide, and I'll just go over this very briefly. This is not a new tax. This is not a tax increase. This is the same 1 cent sales tax that has been in place since 1999. This vote is strictly about how the existing tax can legally be used. At the present, the 1% sales tax is legally restricted to water and sewer debt only, passed by Ordinance 99-3 in 1999. The proposed change and what we're asking the voters of Pottsville to decide is to broaden that allowable use of the existing 1% sales tax to include water and sewer department, streets, roads, and drainage, and general operating purposes. An important note that we want to make sure everybody understands is that if this measure does not pass, then that doesn't mean that this tax will go away. The tax will remain strictly restricted solely to water and sewer debt, just as it is today. So before I get going, for everybody that's watching online, everybody that's here tonight, just want to say thank you all. Whether you're for this or unsure about it, I just appreciate everybody being engaged and being interested in what's going on in your community. I know for me, just a normal guy. So whenever I see something about a tax on a ballot, most of the time my automatic go-to is just a no. So I just want to be very clear about what this is, and I'm going to try to be as open and educate everybody the best I can. So I'm just going to go ahead and move to the next slide. This was something that I had kind of presented whenever I presented this to the council to get it on the ballot. What I did whenever I came into office was I pulled the statistics and analytics from 2015 to 2025. And what that will show you is that there's 123.6% growth in revenue over the last 10 years. It generated about $196,000 in 2015, and in 2025, it generated just over $440,000. That growth happened without raising the rate. This just tells us two things. One, our local economy within the city of Pottsville has grown. And two, the revenue stream is stable and significant. So the question isn't whether this tax exists. It does. The question is whether we're legally allowed to use it in a way that reflects today's realities. So, this is a consistent upward trend. This is a strong and stable revenue base for long-term planning. And the way that it currently is restricted and reads, it gives us just one thing, and that's water and sewer debt. And that water and sewer debt that we've incurred is just for a revenue bond, which was consolidated in 2021. And I'll get to I know that we had a question over that before we started tonight, and I'll get to that point. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to slide number 3. And that's, I just want to explain, why is this vote necessary? And once again, just a normal guy, something that I was looking at and things that I've been wanting to do, coming in here to help the city. The tax was approved in 1999, restricted to water and sewer debt. And at that time, our city, we had a qualifying debt that matched that structure. So it made sense. But today, the only remaining water and sewer obligation is a structured revenue bond. So what that means by law is it's paid from the utility system's revenues, okay? Sales tax cannot cover that bond in any sense. It means you as a paying customer, whenever you pay your water or sewer bill, that's what pays this debt. And when I first came in, that was the first thing I did was I read this 235-page revenue bond, and I contacted the Friday firm to ensure that we were doing everything properly, and that's how they informed me. You don't use that, even though it says debt, well, there's a restriction to a revenue bond. So just wanted to clarify that. And, you know, the structure that was written in 1999, it no longer aligns with our current financial structure. In 1999, and just 10 years ago, we were 123% lower than what we are today. So what does that mean that we can do for our citizens and improve the quality of life, which is a slide in its own, within the city limits of Pottsville if we expand that legal usage? This isn't about spending more. It's about aligning with the law and aligning with reality. Moving on to the next slide. What changes if it passes? So if the voters approve this measure, what changes is the legal flexibility. The funds could be used for water and sewer operations and expansion, the water and sewer department, streets, roads, and drainage, which we all know is a problem within the city limits of Pottsville, and general operating purposes. That means instead of being tied to a narrow category that no longer functions the same way that it did in the previous years, the funds can support the city in a broader and much more responsible way. Move on to the next slide, and that's what does not change. So what doesn't change, it's just as important. The rate stays at 1%. It does not change, it does not go up, and it does not go away. No one pays more, and the tax does not expand. The one thing that I can promise as long as I'm sitting in the seat is that voters will have oversight through the budget process and where their tax dollars are being spent. So I just want to reiterate, this is not a tax increase, it's a use of funds decisions. Moving on to the next slide, which is slide 6. And that is growth creates responsibility. So, you know, like I had explained, in 1999 and just in 2015, 123% increase showing growth in our economy and within our city. We've added infrastructure, we've added streets, we've added drainage demands, we've added utility commitments that we've still not fulfilled. And construction costs have increased significantly. Growth brings obligations, and our financial tools should match those obligations. We should be able to use the funds derived from the people of Pottsville and the sales tax in Pottsville to improve your quality of life. Next slide, I'm moving to street funding reality. So I'm just going to give some numbers here, and I just kind of wanted to give a little brief kind of overview about our streets, because in my opinion, that's one of my number one priorities, and it's one of our number one problems as well as utilities. So in 2025, our average state and county revenue to the street department was about $26,675 per month. The 1 cent sales tax averaged about $36,695 per month. So the state street aid grant currently offers, it just went up to $400,000 for overlay projects. The last time we received that from the state, it paved about 1.5 miles. With the way that cost is going up and everything's increasing, I can predict that it's probably going to stay at about 1.5 miles. So what I want everybody to be aware of is that we're not just going to stop planning for water and sewer debt and, you know, our responsibilities to the people of Pottsville. We're going to continue to contribute to that fund and we're gonna push that very heavily. But that $26,675, that is a very small number, because that's not just street costs. That is including your street department. So we're talking salaries, we're talking health insurance, we're talking vehicle maintenance. Anything you see within the city's street budget, that's what it's covering. So that's not a very large number. So inflation has reduced purchasing power significantly. Right now, we're limited in how we can use local dollars to supplement street work. This flexibility would give the city another tool to strengthen our street program using funds we already collect. I'm going to move to the next slide. This slide is very short, but it's preparing for the future. And I just wanted to give a timeline. This proposal does not mean we stop preparing for utilities, like I said previously on the last slide. We're going to continue to save responsibly. We will continue to prepare for water and sewer expansion. And we will continue to plan for long-term infrastructure like a future sewer plant. This is not about spending everything. It's about managing responsibly. It's about preparing. It's about looking into the future and not restricting ourselves so that we can better provide the services that a city should to its citizens. Slide 9. It's quality of life. So quality of life opportunities. Beyond core infrastructure, this flexibility and this vote that we're asking the citizens of Pottsville, it would allow us to improve overall quality of life. Road improvements, drainage improvements, utility readiness, park enhancements. I want to touch on that. Parks enhancements. We could provide several things for our parks so that we're not traveling to state parks or neighboring city parks. We could make our parks attractive to the citizens of Pottsville. And also, it's a strategic reinvestment into our community. These are not promises tonight. They're possibilities that responsible flexibility allows. We're going to continue to be responsible whether the measure passes or not. We're going to continue to make things happen. This was just something that I came in and I looked at, and it made sense to me that in almost 30 years we have not voted on how we use our sales tax dollars derived from the city of Pottsville. So I'm going to go to closing, and then I'm going to get to questions. So at the end of the day, it's very simple. It's the same tax. It's a broader use. It's greater flexibility and stronger infrastructure. I'm not asking for more money. I'm asking for the legal ability to use existing funds more responsibly. This vote doesn't ask for more. It asks for smarter. Here's how the measure will appear on the ballot starting tomorrow, and that's on this slide, and I will post these again later. So I believe that I've hit on it, and I've discussed everything that I sent out in the flyers about a month ago. So with that, I'm going to try to keep my eye on Facebook here, and I'm going to open everything up for questions for anybody that's in the audience. I don't have any questions right now. I know I did have one. I'll answer this really quick. We had one earlier, and they asked about, Jason, what did they asked for what the debt was for the revenue bond. So in 2021, we had a total debt of $2.715 million. They consolidated that into this revenue bond, and its maturity date is December 1 of 2035. Currently, roughly, we're paying $18,365 a month. Comes up to $220,000, and with a 13-year period, it's like $2.8-ish million. So that's where we're at on that. The importance of that is it's not. I think the question asked, would longer or shorter if this passes? No, it will not. It will stay the same. Any other questions from anybody in the crowd tonight? Yeah, if you can give the exact. The debt will be paid off in 2035. What I believe with this vote, and I'd have to look at the legalities and everything with it, but this would allow for larger flexibility. So could that potentially open up paying this debt off at a sooner date? Potentially, yes. But the way that this tax passed in 1999, it doesn't help one way or the other. So it's 2035 any way that we look at it. The last rate study and when rates were raised was during this revenue bond. That's when it went into effect, and it was to receive this revenue bond. So as we sit and for the foreseeable future, as long as rates are where they're at, we're looking at 2035 paying that debt off. That's all we got so far. Yes, sir.
How would you use this tax to improve drainage around the neighborhoods? Because like what you said, drainage and then flooding has always been an issue across the neighborhoods in Pottsville. So how would you use this new tax?
So with this, that's a really good question. One thing that we're looking at doing right now, we're very aware of a lot of drainage issues. We have two areas. It's over around North D Street, and we have an area at Blue Bonnet and Day Road. These areas are they're flooding, they're stagnant pools of water. Regardless of the tax or not, we're going to have a drainage study conducted of the area, because what we have done to our ability, we've done the best that we could. It's going to require engineers to tell us how to move forward. Now, is this the solid end-all be-all answer? No, but this would alleviate if we had to put a pump station in, because a lot of these areas, like in Blue Bonnet and Day Road, we have half a mile where the fall is 30 foot. Jason, our ops manager at Public Works, shot grade over on the Day Road area, and I think that we made it 100 yards, and our fix, we would have had a 19 foot. Was that what it was?
To go from, you're right there on the corner, right?
No.
Middle there. But to go from Blue Bonnet and Day Road to go south, to go a quarter inch or foot, by the time we get to the drainage ditch that we have, we'd be 19 feet in the ground.
So to answer your question in a long way, we would use this to help us solve those kind of problems, because the reality is that these are not going to be easy, cheap fixes. And the money that we derive right now, we wouldn't be able to do it. And with the restriction, we can't say, okay, well, we'll use it. It doesn't qualify. So we would use that to find a solution to these problems. And there wouldn't be an excuse to, and I won't even say excuse, but there wouldn't be a reason for us to say that we can't fix it. So we would be able to tackle these issues and solve them, professionally. We're kind of looking at doing a drainage study of the entire corporate city limits of Pottsville. That will probably help us with that.
It's much needed, because like I said, especially in the neighborhoods, I was driving around and it gets pretty awful.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, that's one of our biggest focuses. Jason's probably tired of replacing culverts and digging ditches and stuff, but that's a big push and initiative of ours. It's, that's something that we can do and afford to do right now. We're just continuing to tackle that a day at a time, and this would just I won't even say expedite the process, but it'll make the process a whole lot smoother. And that's, I've hit on it and I've said it constantly, but this isn't new funds. It's allowing us to legally use the funds how we should, so we can improve the quality of life around Pottsville. But that's several. I have lots of plans, regardless either way we go. But that would alleviate a lot of pressure, and that would make fixes happen a lot faster. Because if we look at those funds where we can continue to save, two major areas, I would say with that kind of revenue, we could look at having those several areas fixed in a matter of a couple months. Whereas if we don't have it, we're looking at 6, 9, 12 months waiting and planning for that, and also doing other things on top of that. Parks is another one I've hit on. I have some big plans for our parks and improvements. Thank you for your question. I'm gonna check Facebook here, see if we got any more questions. I don't have any more on there as of right now. Anybody else have anything? Something that I was kind of thinking to myself and discussing with some folks, with all of this, I spoke with Blake Gary and several attorneys and our city attorney at Municipal League and the state level to ensure that we did everything properly. But I don't have the exact date, but if this passes March 3rd, that doesn't mean April we can start using those funds. We have to reach out, we have to do everything through the Department of Finance Administration at the state level, and it looks like historically what I've found around July is when we could start using those if this passes. And another thing that I did have this conversation probably a couple weeks ago when I sent about a month ago when I sent the flyers out. The funds that we've received, the revenue that was received in the prior years and months for the old usage, let's say it passes and we're good to spend in July, the money that we have from that sales tax cannot be turned around and used on the new usage. So it will still be legally restricted to water and sewer debt. Right now, I don't have the exact number, but that's approximately $366,000 in that account, which if we're looking at July, we're probably looking at closer to $500,000, which we do have some projects and some utility expansions planned for this spring and this summer. So those will help with that. Something else that we're doing, and
As far as the roads, what roads are you trying to repave?
we
Specific list or just by traffic or?
when we apply for specific grants for streets through the state, we are required to give specific roads and the links. I did submit, let's see, when was that? Probably September this past year. We're on the list, but we haven't received it yet. Could expect they meet once a quarter and determine which cities get it. I did, this was for a grant, but in all honesty, Pottsville in its entirety, but prioritizing where those specific needs are, because some of our roads, I did River Road. We did 2 spots on River Road. One was close to Angel Lake. One was here, as the largest section was in front of our school district, and elementary and the middle school. And then we were looking at Bud Chesney, but I believe we changed that, and I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. Is about a quarter of a mile on one of our streets. Something that I'll hoping, as long as I get the quotes and everything back from our vendors that we're looking at buying some street paving equipment for, I hope to present that this month in council. What that will allow us to do, and like I said, with Pottsville in its entirety of paving streets, what we're trying to do now is we're going to start doing, it won't be huge mile-long overlays. We have to contract out for that. We can't afford, $10 million worth of paving equipment. But what we see is a normal across the city is, in an entirety, we don't have terrible roads, but we have several bad patches of roads. So we're going to start street cutting, removing that old asphalt where it is spider cracked and it's beyond replacing, and then we're going to lay a new asphalt down in those sections. That's going to be our main priority. And we prepped Pisgah Road for one after the cold weather. Jason and his guys were out there last week. We're getting ready to do that pretty soon in the coming weeks. A couple other areas I know. This equipment, we're going to make it happen with or without the tax. It just makes sense. It's a hot asphalt machine. It's a hot box is what they call it. And we could get, let's say we end up purchasing a 4-ton machine and we use a 1.5 tons. So that extra 2.5 tons, instead of wasting it and letting it sit in a dump truck trailer like we have right now, we can go back in, program this machine, get it to the right temperature, and utilize that asphalt. Another important note is that in the recent years we've been using cold mix, little patch jobs. It's really better utilized for like parking lots and smaller, less traveled areas. But it's very expensive because it's pre-treated and has chemicals and all sorts of things in it. 4 tons of that is roughly $4,000. 4 tons of hot asphalt, permanent fixture. 3 tons was $150 for someone who was just coming off the street to Blackstone. We have an account there. We get a better price, but we're looking at probably $150 versus $4,000. So that in itself, this equipment will save us quite a bit of money. But for the streets, we're just gonna focus one bit at a time, kind of like how we are with the drainage. We're just gonna prioritize. We started south, and we've just been working north. And that's another thing. I do see a question here from one of our council members. But one of the things that I want to make kind of clarify too is our public works crew right now, they're operating our water and sewer system, and they're operating our streets and drainage. What do we have right now, Jason? 6 or 5? 5. Okay, 6, and we're getting ready to add 7. We got some interviews coming up. But in most municipalities, you'll see that's for some folks would have that for each department.
Oh, yeah.
And we're operating, a very mass scale, and they're killing it. But it's like if a water main breaks, and we're doing this big drainage project, the water main's going to take, people's drinking water is going to take priority. So we get there and we do the best we can. They do a really good job at staying on track, staying on task, but that's just an important note that I wanted to add in there. But we're just going to tackle everything a little bit at a time. We're going to look at several different scenarios. Something that we've started in the last 3 to 4 months is we have a department head meeting. Hoping within the coming months for council, I'll be able to put a NAT chart and kind of like a timeline calendar for the year, or maybe even the quarter up. And it kind of keeps all of our departments and the entire city, on the same page, because we're all on the same team. We're working towards the same goal. And then we can prioritize needs, but then to go the extra step, we can be transparent and show the people what we're prioritizing. And that's something that I want to be able to do, where if we have right now with our sales tax, I feel like our guys do a really good job, but they may not see, the street that you drive on every day. That makes you feel like, wow, my tax dollars are being used. But whenever we're showing our guys in a ditch, updating a water main, doing infrastructure improvements, they don't see, you're not seeing what your tax dollars are being used for. And it's just a very small scope whenever you look at the way that that's labeled. And that's why I took it from water and sewer debt to department as its entirety, because then we can plan much further out. It's kind of a long spiel there. I'm going to look at this here. Okay. Can you see if can you turn that microphone on? I may not hit it. There's it. There we go. This one's good. I couldn't hear the questions being asked. Anybody on? No questions on here. Any other questions from the audience, or just open Q&A?
Where's voting going to be at the town? Where's it going to be in the court?
It's usually over at the First Baptist Church here, behind, I think it's in their fellowship hall.
From tomorrow to March 3rd?
Yes, yeah, you can expect from tomorrow until March 3rd. I believe I pulled the sample ballot. I looked at it a little bit earlier. Of course, we have the sheriff that we're voting. We have one of our senators, Supreme Justice. I believe there's a school millage on there, which is not increased, just keeping it the same. And there's a couple other things on there. I believe most of the county folks were unopposed, aside from sheriff, and then this one. Thank you for bringing that up. For the people watching from home, like I said, I'll post this sample ballot and all this slideshow online. But this tax, if you want to vote in favor of allowing the broader use, you'll vote for, and if you want to keep it the same for water and sewer debt only, you will vote against this measure. So just to clarify that, you can get on the Secretary of State's website, you put in your name and your date of birth, and then it can show you your sample ballot of what you can expect to vote on. Any other questions? I'll kind of keep the Facebook Live up for a couple more minutes and see if there's any other questions that come through. Give everybody here some more time, think of anything. I really, I can keep talking all night. Jason can tell you that. I really do think this is as a citizen of Pottsville, and especially where I want to see us continue to go. I believe that this is a good thing. Like I said from the get-go, I'm a normal guy. When I see the tax vote, most people are automatically against. Well, this tax has almost been around for 30 years, and it's not going away. And if we want to see a lot of the improvements and things that we can do, this would help us get there. I really, really am excited about some things that we have planned for the park, and this would just expedite some of those plans. You know, when I moved home and I got out of the Army, one of the first things I did when I moved back here, we took our son down to the park, and we have a single slide and some pea gravel. That was disappointing, you know, when you got to drive west and go to another city's park and not be able to utilize our own parks. Basketball, pickleball, so many things, so many good plans that we have. Extension of walking trails. We should be able to provide that for our kids. I think that's what I just try to look at. I just want my kids to have a good place to live and a local government that wants to take care of them. I want to take care of our people. I don't tell folks all the time, not a politician, not ever going to pretend to be one. I just want to do the right thing. And in my heart, I believe that this is the right thing. I genuinely do. And I think that we shouldn't wait another 30 years until we vote on how all of our tax dollars are being used again. I think that this should be a normal discussion. I think that this should be a normal brief of how these funds are being utilized. And I just think that that's, regardless of who's sitting here or not, if it's me or if it's someone else, that's their obligation to come before you and tell you these things. And, you know, that's all I'm trying to do with this is I am just trying to be as open. I know transparent is so misused in government, but I really am trying my best to be as transparent and as open as possible. I've opened up so many avenues for folks to come to City Hall and you know, or just reach out online or however. I'm not going to be one to just, if this passes, you're going to never hear about it again. I'm going to be showing y'all on my weekly updates and pictures that what these funds are going to be doing. Because as of right now, other than very, very, very small incurred debts, water main that we just had that was busted, we got to use some of these funds for, and a couple improvements at the sewer plant. But, you know, we're so confined and restricted to how we use this, and this just opens up. And probably my favorite slide was quality of life. This city has got so much potential. We are growing. We have 3 businesses committed, closed on property, and they're gonna, you know, we're gonna grow. And I was talking with somebody the other day, and I don't know if a lot of y'all probably remember, but we think about Parkway in Russellville right now. I remember when that was a swamp. It was woods and a swamp. Well, the city, they expanded their infrastructure, and look at it now. I've said it whenever I was deciding to run. I'm going to continue to run on it and say it. I want to honor our roots, and I want to build our future. My number one goal is improving the quality of life for the citizens here. You're all my neighbors. Most of you probably know me my whole life. And I want businesses here. You know, I have reached out to over 40 restaurants. I want a restaurant that I can go sit down and eat a meal with in my hometown.
I think a lot of folks that live in Pottsville are tired of having to drive all the way to Russellville just to get some food.
And that's our goal. And with the plans that we're about to start, we're about to expand our infrastructure, and we're going to focus on Highway 64 for utilities, the spots that don't have it, and I think that we can fingers crossed, I'm not making any promises, but I think that we can plan to see, some businesses start showing up. We've gotten 3 since the 7 months I've been here.
Are you allowed to say what they are, or you just?
I have, now none of these, there's only one, let's see, there's only one that's been through planning and zoning, so I'll discuss that one. It'll be, and I don't know if he's opened up, so I'm not gonna elaborate on what it is, but it will be over, in front of the junior high, off 247 and Apache Drive at that corner there. He closed on that lot, and I believe that he's opened up a warehouse temporarily, but he will be putting a business out there, start seeing some construction going on. He's got all of his approvals and permits. I think he just got his state stuff approved. And we have several others that are coming, which will be good. It's not a restaurant, sit-down restaurant. That's one that I really want. But I think that we have a bright future, whichever way we go. We're always going to pull through, and regardless of sales tax votes or not, it's not going to change my priorities. Just going to continue to do the right thing day in and day out. Let's see. I've seen a comment here. Let's see. Okay, thank you, Councilmember Scarber. She said early voting is only in Russellville. Voting in Pottsville is only on election day. So March 3rd will be the only voting in Pottsville, but you can go to Russellville and early vote. Somebody asked on here, since we have so many speeders going from the high school to East Ash Street on Pine Ridge Road, would it be possible to put speed bumps on it? I don't know. We did discuss that last week. So I'll just say it, just heads up. You might want to be not speeding down East Ash and Pine Ridge, because we're going to start enforcing that. It's a priority to keep all of our citizens safe, especially our kids.
What about that four-way at Foot River Road?
Mhm.
Possible stoplight there, highway stoplight. There tends to be a lot of wrecks there every once in a while, though.
And you're talking about River and 247?
Four-way would just stop.
There was a investor that purchased a piece of property over there. Now, I haven't heard one way or the other if those plans still remain in place, but there was a brief discussion about some cost sharing for something like that. But however, once you start talking of ARDOT, we get the state involved, they'll kind of regulate what we can and can't do there. So I don't know 100% what that would look like. I will just say openly, we just got the school lots replaced. That was a big initiative, and now our focus is going to shift to the 64 bypass street lot. We got some upgrades that we've got to get done there. So not rolling that out, maybe, but our focus is going to be on the ones that we have, and then, I would have to talk to the state. I don't even know what that process would look like. They would probably want to do a traffic study, I'm sure. But yeah, that is an area that needs some love. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, George Wolf, hope you're doing good. He said, will the revenue for this tax be directed straight to the general fund for the council to spend as they see fit, or will it stay in its own fund to be dispersed to the projects you discussed? So I'm glad you asked that question, Mr. Wolf. These funds right now, currently, we're required, the state, they direct deposit each month. We have a 1% and half percent. So they're required to enter into our general fund, and then they go to their respected accounts. So right now what happens, on the 25th, and if depending on if the 25th falls on a Saturday, it will hit on a Friday, and if it falls on a Sunday, it will hit on a Monday. But those funds get direct deposited into our general fund. With our budgets, I broke it down by any kind of account transfer out in city sales tax. 696,000, I believe, is what we predicted for 26. But we will take these funds and we will derive them into, like right now we have a water and sewer 1 cent account, and that's where the 366,000 currently is sitting. So we'll continue to do that. Like I was discussing earlier, I do want to keep the water and sewer 1 cent, and we're going to contribute to that a large amount every month, and then we'll find that excess and put it into a sales and use tax. I'm not sure how we'll label it. Have to get if it does pass. Something else that me and the council and I believe that the city should do is we're going to look at passing an ordinance that will add some extra steps to utilizing these funds to just beat on that transparency. It puts protection in regardless of who sits here. I can't say, okay, I just want to spend $20,000 on, underwater basket weaving machine. So they are going to have to discuss it. It's going to have to be open. We just haven't really pursued that. Like I said, we'll have several months leading up until we could actually do it. So that's something me and the city attorney kind of been bouncing back and forth on, how does that look? But yes, there will be, Mr. Wolf, thank you. That's a very, very good question. We will definitely have some systems put in place regardless who's here, what council sits before you, what mayor sits before you. They're going to have to be transparent with how these funds are used. So thank you for that question. That's very good. And then as well, yeah, we're gonna direct those sales tax dollars should not be treated the same as normal operating dollars. We should be able to show you, Fred does a great job, the power of the penny, and he shows how Russellville utilizes that across the city, and we're gonna try to do the same thing. Obviously, we won't look the same because that's a big difference, but we're gonna be open and we're gonna show everybody how this could be used.
A little better in Russellville.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I tell Fred that all the time. No. I'm just going to give it just a couple more minutes, see if we have any more questions. That was some really good ones there. I'm going to go back up, make sure. Thank you, Mr. Williams, for that comment. The speed bumps, I hit on it a little bit. We just have to look. I don't know about on those main roads. Just something I'd have to look at, and I rely on council and my advisors. I want to talk to all my emergency services and talk to a lot of folks before I gave any kind of solid answer on that. And I'll touch on this just to give everybody just a sec, just in case any more questions. I had talked with someone, and they had asked about general operating purposes. Initially, the way that I had worded it was for parks, and what general operating purposes does is because I listened to a lot of folks and heard the citizens, because we were looking at having both sales tax ballots on here. I took the advisement of several people and several citizens, and we left the 0.5% alone. But it's just the nature of the beast. The police department in every city is expensive. It's not a wealth building machine. It's, they have equipment, rightfully so, to keep our community safe. So to encompass, the police department, the parks, something that I'm really trying to do, I've increased our budget for, is community outreach. I really want to start doing things for our community and for our kids. We have several ideas. So a way that we could encompass that and not just a single, it'd been a really long ballot if I put all that in there. But once again, everybody's going to see how these funds are going to be spent, and it's going to be very open as long as I'm here, and we're going to put the systems in place to ensure that there is no option but to remain transparent. So I'm going to give just about 2 more minutes. Let anybody, if they want to ask any questions or have any input, I will give them just a little bit more time, but I think that we're kind of wrapping up. Just give a little bit more time. Just want to say again, I really appreciate y'all showing up tonight, and for y'all tuning in online. I hope that I'm for it, of course. I do hope that it passes. I hope that we can get this through and that we can start seeing some real improvements and some fast, expedited improvements, and particularly, one that I'm definitely going to focus on this spring and summer is going to be our parks. But the streets, roads, and drainage, we're going to tackle that like Pottsville's never seen. We're gonna hit those hard, and we're gonna get this stuff up to date. And something as small as like what we did on South River Road, getting it painted. We're gonna start taking care of our stuff, and I think I've said it a lot in council and to a lot of people. I want to be proactive. I don't want to be reactive. I'm trying to look ahead, and I see where I want to be in 12 months. And Jason and Heath, Chief Pritchard, across the board, everybody, we've got some really good plans, and we're doing some really good stuff. And I said it earlier, not a politician, just here to work hard, and we're working really, really hard. And I'm trying to do what makes sense. And that's why it's not even in discussion to raise taxes or anything like that. That's not improving quality of life. But we can be more responsible with what we're already receiving, and that's simply what we're trying to do. Let's see. Please discuss, Mr. Wolf asked, please discuss why the payments on the water and sewer bonds should not be increased to pay off the bonds early. Now, Mr. Wolf, I'm not entirely sure of this, but the way that I understood it is because the way that it was passed as a revenue bond, tax dollars are not permitted to pay for this. Now, if this can alleviate other areas of expenses, we could absolutely increase some payments to it. It is kind of tough to be hypothetical about it, just because month to month operating looks different for the water department, but we will, I can assure you that the sooner we can get out of debt, I would rather not be paying this bond for my foreseeable future in this office, and I'm sure that the citizens of Pottsville don't want to see us pay this. It's just something that we would have to look at. I'd have to rely on the attorneys and the firm that help us complete this revenue bond 5 years ago to make sure that we could. There's a lot of deciding factors on that, but just the way that it reads now, that can't be used, and tax dollars can't be used. It's just strictly the revenue. this would open up us to use those funds more freely across the water and sewer department, so that could save us on costs and we could prioritize extra revenue towards the bond. So I'm not saying we wouldn't do that. We really have to get into the weeds of it. And that's an answer that I definitely owe you all. But it's just not something that I have right now. The tax dollars can't pay for it the way that we adopted that bond. It's just the revenue. But thank you for that question. That's a good question. All right. Well, I'm just going to say thanks to everybody again. Really appreciate everybody coming out and being engaged. I'll say it for folks on Facebook and watching after the fact, and everybody here. It's an open door. We're here for you. During the State of the City, I said it, come get involved, ask questions, and, challenge us. I got a council and I've got department heads and great people surrounding me, but at the end of the day, I'm just one guy, one person. You may have an idea that I'll run with. I've done it several times talking to people. You just got to plant the seed sometimes. I had an idea not too long ago. I think I was talking to Jason, or I think it was Jason, and he's like, what about this? And I was like, well, that just squashed it all, because I can only think on certain tracks. So I'm always open to input. I'm not a know-it-all, and my word's the say-so. I'm open to anything and everything. Many minds are better than one. So anyway, really appreciate y'all. God bless y'all. Y'all be safe. Thank you very much for the participation. Thank y'all.